off top in the 1962 NBA Finals went to Game 7, Celtics against the Lakers. Bill Russell had 30 points and 40 rebounds. Not to be outdone, though, Elgin Baylor on the other side, you may have forgotten this. He went for 41 points and 22 rebounds in the loss. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
All right, memory, man. I think we talk about this a lot when we're talking about all-time greats, about how the further we get away from them, the less we remember specifics, and it's just kind of like, hey, this guy was really good at this, or we just paint this whole broad brush, and Elgin Baylor is left out of a lot of these great conversations, but it's because they didn't win enough. And the same with Jerry West, didn't win enough, and it's not fair because we talk about these great these great Game 7 performances, and obviously the Steph Curry game is what led me into looking up Game 7 performances. Obviously, that's one we're probably going to remember for a long time, even though it's just a first round series. It's set a record and it changed the way we feel about, I think it's probably, I don't know if it's changed the way we feel about Steph Curry, but it's kind of solidified something that I think has been happening for Steph the Wild, is he's having this late career kind of legacy redefinition. Does that make sense? I feel like last season was as big for Steph Curry, the way we were going to remember Steph Curry, as just about anything. And it's odd because it's normally not how it happens for players. It's not that those final championships or those final runs that convince us that they are higher on the Mount Rushmore than we think they should be, but it's certainly happening for Steph Curry. What do you think?
I think it's it's reframing the Stephen Curry conversation in an interesting way, because 2015, 2016, Steph Curry, his impact on basketball, his impact on the sport, it became a real conversation of, is this guy a generation defining player, along with or ahead of LeBron James? 2016 finals happens and LeBron blocks Curry a bunch, basically looks at all of us and says, shut up, I'm still that dude. Durant shows up in Golden State. The narrative around that team: Kevin Durant, is he the best player on that team? Is this legacy defining for Kevin Durant? The narrative was about him and how it was going to change his legacy. I think if we look back at that, Stephen Curry had won 2 MVPs. He had the greatest shooting season of all time in 2016, I think, without a doubt. That's fair to say. I mean, I'm sure there have been guys who have shot higher percentages from 3, but not from volume, not from difficulty, not from impact, not from gravity. The narrative that got changed by those Durant years was Steph Curry's. Yeah. It's like A-Rod moving to third base. He became someone who was willing to accommodate a second star. There were 3 unstoppable players in the world. Golden State had 2 of them.
Right.
And Stephen Curry's generosity is what made that happen. But we're talking about someone who was on an all-time run, a truly all-time run of right there with Jordan, right there with LeBron for those couple years of how special this guy was. And he took a back seat. He gave up finals MVPs. And what we've since seen with the reformation of this Warriors dynasty in this second part is those were the years we lost from Steph as an A1 alpha. And getting to do this again, I think, is reminding us what we thought of those first 2 years of the Warriors dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, we're assuming that I think you're assuming that he would have had success in those moments, which is not a fair assumption to make. Like, they could have, it really changed a lot about the history of the game, because it would have been Steph and LeBron going at it without KD in there to tilt the scales.
Or Durant versus Steph in the Western Conference Finals. Those teams were awesome too.
And it could have been, Durant versus LeBron in the championship in a way that felt more, a little bit fairer. But what we're seeing from Steph now, I think, is, it's on those LeBron levels where it's like, all right,
LeBron.
Who else is there to help him? And I don't know that there's anybody who does. I don't want to be hyperbolic, so I won't go that far. I'll just say that seeing Steph shoot, and then we've been seeing it for a while, and I know he does a lot of other things well also, but they all are based on the fact that you have to respect his shooting ability. Like, his ball handling is great, his passing is good, but all of that stuff matters because you can't give him any space. But watching him shoot compared to anybody else, it's absurd. Like the distance between him and the next best shooter, and I'm sure the stats don't support it, but it doesn't matter. When you're watching him shoot, you always think it's going in, whether it's contested or not. And then he can hit shots from anywhere. And I don't know that there's like Damian Lillard, I guess, comes to mind as someone who's similar, has that similar amount of range and that dead eye shooting ability. But it's just so impressive that he's gotten so good at that one thing. And that one thing has spawned so many other things. Like there's no one close to him as far as catch and shoot shooting and off the dribble shooting and the step back shot. It just is, it's everything is predicated on that unique ability. And like you mentioned, it's a game changing ability that everyone's been trying to mimic to some degree, but nobody can. That whole offense, that whole team, the foundation of it is, I feel like at one point we thought the foundation was like the discovery of Draymond Green's versatility. It's like, oh, this is the unique thing that this team does that makes them special. But it's always been Steph shooting.
Yeah.
It's always been the shooting.
It's the shooting and the movement. I mean, we've seen great shooters who can't shoot in these absurdly twisted, off the catch, off the dribble, in traffic ways that Steph can. He can score at every single layup. Like his handle's crazy. It's not Kyrie crazy, but it's right there. It's right the tier below. His finishing in traffic for a small guard is preposterous. And I mean, look, the statistical cases are there. You know, when he's on the floor for his career, it's always like the team is 15 points better per 100 possessions. It's like his gravity makes him alone an offense that's like the Showtime Lakers, the 80 Celtics, the best Cavs team in 2017. It's always been strength in numbers, but it's really strength in numbers around Stephen Curry.
Right. Yeah. His uniqueness and his shooting ability. And I guess I know the numbers support that he's great, but I guess the numbers don't support, in my view, how much better he is at what he does best than other people.
Yeah. Oh, just like pure shooting numbers.
Yeah. Like
it's because they're specialists.
Yeah.
They're specialists.
And I don't care. It's just watching him is something special and something different. And the probability of his shot going in, no matter when he's shooting it, is feels higher to me than anyone else. And I think most people agree, especially coming off of that game, the prisoner of the moment thing. You and I had a good laugh over the weekend talking about ranking him amongst the other great point guards in history. And it feels prisoner of the moment-y, but his versatility and his defense has gotten better. That's the one drawback, I guess you could say, is that, yeah, I mean, but yeah, if I were to pick a point guard, like I don't know who I would argue be better. And like I wasn't there like locked in for Magic Johnson or Isaiah Thomas. Like I saw them, but I wasn't locked in to the degree that I was around like LeBron and stuff. But those are only people in this conversation. Like where I guess Steve Nash is in the conversation, but John Stockton's in the conversation maybe, but I don't think there's much of a debate because it feels like Steve Nash is somewhat like he's also a really good shooter.
Yeah.
But he feels like he's a lower version of the same thing.
Yeah.
And like Isaiah does something different. Magic does something different, but Magic's 6'9", and that feels unfair to talk about him as a point guard, honestly.
I mean, so the Magic stuff, like his highlights, we've texted about this. They stand the test of time. Like you look at Magic's highlights and you're like, how the hell did his brain think to do this stuff?
Right.
And obviously you look at offensive rating with those Lakers teams. It's a similar thing to Curry. That's basically you put Magic Johnson on the floor and your offense is the best ever or right there along with these teams. So it's really hard for me to parse that. But this actually brings me to an interesting point of sort of where I think of the point guard debate. And it's in the modern era. And I think the matchup that we're getting with the Lakers and the Warriors is the matchup of the two greatest point guards of the modern era, and LeBron James and Stephen Curry. And they do it in so vastly different ways. Obviously, LeBron's a power guard. And for years, he's been able to physically dominate people to get to the rim and jump off that left leg and pretty much annihilate anyone in any situation. It's the ultimate run killer. But the way he plays point guard is slowly. He gets a pick and roll and he's the greatest decision maker in the history of basketball. Over and over again, he reads the defense, he dissects them, and if you make a millisecond mistake, LeBron James will figure it out and play that pattern until you call a fucking timeout and are embarrassed. Stephen Curry thrives off the chaos as a ladder, movement, chaos. And to see that clash of styles again, even it's different. Like we had peak LeBron versus an ascending Curry, and now we have what I feel is like maybe the best Stephen Curry has ever been against a diminished LeBron who's going to get by more on guile and his injured foot, and this team with Austin Reeves and Anthony Davis and Jared Vanderbilt guarding him. It's fascinating.
So the highlight thing is interesting because you're right. Magic's highlights hold up. Larry's highlights hold up. Jordan's highlights hold up. Elgin Baylor highlights don't hold up. They don't hold up. I watched the Elgin Baylor highlights.
He's dribbling like Ray Charles.
They don't hold up. He was obviously a dominant player, but the highlights don't hold up anymore in the modern
DC
game.
Legend, though.
Yeah, he is a DC legend. But you know what I think is really interesting, the way that you describe them too, is like LeBron and Steph are such opposites in so many ways. They're both real superstars. LeBron's obviously an industry onto himself, or like a franchise of his own that moves his franchise from city to city. And then obviously Steph has been a part of this strength in numbers thing. And LeBron was like the chosen one from the beginning and like climbed the mountain slowly, but proved it and like kind of fulfilled all of the predictions we had from him. And Steph was the other way and kind of came out of nowhere and started to climb into being in this conversation. And then you have like LeBron, single mother home, poverty, whatever. And then you got Steph. His dad was in the NBA and his parents were married, at least for the time he was growing up, and went to Davidson and like.
Oh, I was gonna see you're gonna land that plane. Okay, great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying from the standpoint, it's funny that they're so different in so many different ways, and that also like they're play the same position. To your point, I get what you're saying. They both are the point guards, but they play in such different ways. And LeBron is like a computer, or like he's almost like he's a technician, and Steph Curry feels like an artist. Yeah. And that he's reacting and replaying. He's reacting to what they're doing, and he's like running these beautiful routes and around the court and letting the defense adjust to the things that he's doing, and then making the decisions based on that. And always the number one decision should always be to shoot, but that's not his first decision. And then watching their style of play, because you're right, LeBron, as explosive as he is in transition, the way he kills people is like, he knows your adjustments. He knows the adjustments to the adjustments. He knows where the weaknesses are going to be. And it feels like he's just a computer on the floor, which I don't know how valuable that is going into this series, where he does not seem to have the full game athleticism that he once had. And he doesn't have the shooting ability. At least this season, he hasn't shot very well. So this series is going to be interesting, but we're going to put it as Steph versus LeBron. But it's really Steph versus AD if we're talking about the top players in the series.
Well, so, God, I think in this series, we're going to look – LeBron barely played in the post against the Kings, unless it was those steal plays where he was able to steal someone off in transition and get an easy basket. But LeBron's going to have to play in the post against the Warriors. It's what has always been a kryptonite for that team. Draymond has never done a great job guarding LeBron one-on-one. That was an Iguodala thing. I think we'll see more of that. I mean, looking at this series, it's a clash of styles in an immense way. I actually think the Lakers are going to do a good job defending the Warriors, even though I do think like my gut says the Warriors are going to win this series. This is a uniquely gigantic and mobile Lakers team that's going to give them problems. And, they played a Kings team where Sabonis was a shell of himself by the end, truly a broken man. And De'Aaron Fox had broken fingers. And I'm not taking anything away from the Warriors' victory. Like, Fox is out there. He was, still their best player and still their most impactful player. But we're going to see a peak Davis, hopefully. We're going to see LeBron orchestrating the offense in an interesting way. Like, those stretches where Austin Reeves was running that two-man game on the opposite side of the floor and LeBron was anchoring it on the other wing, you could see that change happening where LeBron's pointing out Tyus Jones is in the game. Austin Reeves, you take the ball. You have this mismatch. You run your 2-man game with Davis or Rui Hachimura. Like, that's the size mismatch that we want to hit. Like, even off ball, he's an extra coach. And that's what's fascinating.
Yeah, you can have confidence in your prediction, but I have no idea. Like, I don't feel confident at all. I can imagine this series going a bunch of different ways.
I should let people in on this. I love LeBron James. I'm rooting for the Lakers. I just I would feel it's not doing justice to the Warriors if I came out full fanboy and was like, LeBron's going to do this on 1 foot, nearing 40 years old, with a ragtag bunch of teammates that he traded for midseason. But
it seems impossible, honestly. But
yeah.
I mean, you look at what the Warriors have been doing, and they don't seem unbeatable. They feel like they're rounding in the shape, and they feel like a different team. And I guess what it comes down to, or part of what it comes down to me, is like, what version of Wiggins are you going to get in this next round?
Mm-hmm.
Is he playing himself back into like last year's finals Wiggins? Because
can he be the Austin Reeves stopper?
Yeah, I mean, I think he can be. I love Austin, but it's a lot to be relying on Austin Reeves in these big time situations. But he's been coming through.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in the NBA playoffs that is worth discussing right now? Because I mean, we got the Knicks Heat coming up.
I have one quick final anecdote about Stephen Curry, which I don't think I've shared on the podcast, but I think I've shared with you before, maybe. In 2016, when that team was a revolution, right? Mm-hmm. And people were getting there 3 hours before the game to watch Steph warm up. I went to college and had mutual friends with Festus Ezeli, who was the backup center on that team, who's now infamous for getting cooked by LeBron on those back-to-back possessions in Game 7, but was a solid backup big for them for a couple of years and is just a tremendously nice guy. But when Steph came to DC and he lit DC up for 51 and hit 13 threes on John Wall, I went with one of Festus's friends, and he brought us down to the tunnel afterwards. We were chatting with him. This was in the midst of them going 73-9. And we asked him how everything was going. And he looked me dead in the eyes like, how's everything going? I get to play basketball with Stephen Curry. This is the most fun thing ever. Everything is great. And I can't think of another professional basketball player that's literally brings out joy in a backup bigs just because they get to be on the floor with someone who makes basketball so chaotic and fun.
Yeah, just watching Draymond, when Draymond gets the ball, he's just searching for Steph.
Yeah.
He just looks so excited to give him the ball and let him shoot and then react. And Steph looked so happy when Clay finally hit a shot in that game, and when he got that 4-point play just before the end of the third. Like, it's fun to see when those guys are playing well and having fun. I think I'm with you in like wanting LeBron to succeed, like more than anything, just because it just feels like it might sound stupid to you, but like it feels like I guess it's just the modern way we talk about sports, where it's like they're looking for holes to put in LeBron's resume, and I hate that about the conversation. So I wish that he could fill all those holes, but there's no way that he's ever going to do that.
Well, there's a thing with that. Yeah. How do you think that if we're going to project forward and storyline predict, if Steph wins this series against LeBron, in theory, he's then up 4-1 in series against LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
They have the same amount of championships.
I mean, putting Steph above LeBron is just stupid.
I mean, I have eyeballs. I wouldn't do that. But
that's just stupid. I mean, some people might try to, or might try to argue that he had a better career or something like that. Not a better player, but a better career. I would disagree with anything that puts Steph in the same, like, I wouldn't say tier, but they're both all-time greats, but like they aren't in the same neighborhood to me. And I understand Steph's impact on the game and all that, but yeah, what LeBron has been, we both fell into highlight rabbit holes, and I don't think anybody can beat a LeBron James highlight tape. Like, I don't think anybody can beat it, including Mike.
I'm a Mike highlight guy. His highlights just look like he's a giant Kyrie Irving who actually tries on defense, which is not like, that's actually probably underselling it because he also jumped, like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's freakish, but the early LeBron highlights, they get lost in history. Like the 2007 to 2009. Like, we look at Giannis and we're like, that's the peak of like what a human being could do. Yeah. No. Mm-hmm. Go back and look at LeBron take off from the free throw line in game and like almost bang his head on the top of the backboard on blocks and alley-oops. It like he was so flashy then. It's gotten lost because he became this efficiency monster to win championships. But when he was out there, like with like his peak handle, peak agility, peak speed, jumping, stupid.
I don't know. I guess, yeah, Mike's highlights are incredible too. We shouldn't have to compare them, but I think,
he was playing against plumbers instead of podcasters, so different era.
podcasters. That's funny. All right. So you want to do a little bit? I mean, I guess we don't have to, but we can do a little bit on football and the draft and Lamar signing the contract. Like, it's a big deal, him getting his money. The conversation around Lamar is an interesting one because, and we talk about this a lot. I think it's just people have these like the confirmation bias. They want Lamar to be framed as a loser or framed as a winner in these negotiations.
Oh, you think?
It just felt really weird listening to people try to spin Lamar becoming the highest paid player in NFL history into a loss for him because he didn't get a fully guaranteed contract. And like, it doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like he was negotiating. Bless you. He was negotiating.
Sorry, I tried to mute myself. I whiffed on the button.
Sorry, no problem. It's allergy time. I think a lot of people can relate. He was negotiating, and part of negotiation is like you put out a high bid. So maybe he did want the fully guaranteed contract, and he didn't get it. But it just feels weird for people to be like, "Oh, he should have had an agent. He lost this deal. That deal was on the table for him before." Like, no, it wasn't. And like he got the high. I don't know. It just seemed like a win for Lamar. It feels like a win for Ravens, and it feels like people are trying to frame it as anything other than that are just obviously haters.
I mean, Lamar Jackson is the choose your own adventure media story of the NFL, and he always is. Like the people on both sides, people are like, they're so unfair about Lamar Jackson, and it's like no one has a conversation because both sides feel like it's completely unfair, and the coverage of him affects how we talk about him as a football player. When you talk about this contract, like maybe it's just not that interesting to say, but this is just a win-win for everyone.
Right.
And this is the direction that I think most sane people thought it was going to end up before we heard that Lamar was going to demand a trade. We thought he was never going to play there again. This seemed like the spot. Okay. Is he better than Kyler Murray? Yes. Give him more guaranteed money. Then Jalen Hurts came around. But initially, the Kyler Murray contract was initially the sane person starting point when you remove Deshaun Watson and Jimmy Haslam's nonsense from all of this. So did it end up in the right spot? Yes. Did Lamar not having an agent affect him negatively? No, not in the negotiations. Maybe in the way that this was handled from a media standpoint, because he didn't have sort of the protection of whether it's a CAA or a different company that's going to basically leak news to protect their clients. If you want to say that's the loss that he didn't have an agent for, yeah, that's totally fair. Would the stories have been more positive about him as a football player if he had someone leaking that to Schefter or to Ian Rappaport? Of course. Was he going to end up probably with $185 million of being the Ravens quarterback? Also, yes.
Yeah. None of this would have been different except for the way we talk about him. The idea that we all are a little bit I don't know, a little bit biased in the Lamar conversation. Like, yeah, that's 100% true. And it's unfair. It's that he has to become this lightning rod, but it's the fact of the case. I talked about with Bomani a bunch of times that like I know that I can't be completely unbiased because like I feel a need to offer Lamar protection that he has never asked for and probably doesn't need. But like I witness the way that people talk about him and the way that they treat him. And like it feels like you have to combat that in some way, but there is really no way to combat it because it's kind of like the LeBron thing, where people are looking for ways to take some players down. There are certain people who are looking for ways to take some of these players down, and that doesn't apply. It doesn't feel like it applies to Steph, but maybe it did, but it doesn't.
It definitely did for a couple of years.
When they were saying he's not a finisher, no finals MVP. Yeah, it happens to Steph too.
Yeah, I mean, you had like. We all were laughing when LeBron was literally stepping over the dead bodies of Steph and Clay at his Halloween party.
Yeah.
Being like, look at that choker. I mean, the Lamar thing it's a bummer because he's a super interesting football player. And I have friends who watch ESPN being like, there's just not an honest conversation about him. Because and I genuinely feel this way because it became so polarized from Bill Polian's first comments. Like it becomes charged if you talk about his successes or failures. And that really stinks because like, these quarterbacks are monoliths in this league. And to not talk about their successes and failures as football players without it becoming something that's emotional for people at a certain point, it's like, it's a bummer because he's a really interesting player to place in history because he's the first player to have this success with his style. And his failures are interesting. His successes are interesting. And you know what? We can be better. We can be better on this podcast. Now that he got his money, we can be better moving forward.
We can be better. We will do our best to be honest about Lamar Jackson going forward. You have my word. Anything else from the draft before we wrap it up that you thought was interesting? I mean, Philly is all Georgia. This is connected to Lamar some. Anthony Richardson is more connected to Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts his success is partially connected to Lamar being able to do it. But yeah, Shane Steichen in Indianapolis is getting Anthony Richardson, the super athlete, and going to try to build an offense around him, which I'm looking forward to that. Any of that stuff get you excited?
I mean, build Anthony Richardson statue now. Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Anthony Richardson. Johnny Unitas. Sorry, Johnny.
Yeah. Luck doesn't get a statue, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, for the record, definitely the quarterback with the best hair of any of those guys. You went from crew cut to gigantic forehead to balding 24-year-old. So now we at least got Anthony Richardson in Indy. Honestly, the Eagles thing, I'd love to know what you think about this. Like, I had joked for years the team should have just tried to draft the entire 2001 Miami Hurricanes defense when it had Sean Taylor and Ed Reed and Vince Wilfork and Jerome McDougal and Dan Morgan and DJ Williams and Jonathan Vilma.
Right.
And the Eagles were like, oh, this is the best college defense since the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. What if we just try and get all of them? Even the Keely Ringo pick, like, dude's a physical freak, and they got him in the 4th round as a flyer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that come with that. I know certain teams have like certain styles that they like. I noticed that the Ravens under Ozzie, they did a lot of Alabama, and then like later they did a lot of Oklahoma guys around the offensive side of the ball. I think that some of it is just like style of play that you like, and you've seen it there, and probably also like there's some terminology and lineage of like coaching styles in there that makes it easier. But it's also when you're going to these big places, like there's a culture aspect that is already taken care of.
Yeah.
And like if you get guys that are in from Georgia, guys that are in from Alabama, there is something about the way that they work, the way that what's expected of them. And you get a bunch of them, then it just carries over, and there's a transition right into your locker room. So I think there's that value that comes before you even talk about, they're damn good at football. And I'm not sure that they wouldn't have drafted these players no matter where they went to school, because these are all like, it all checks out. None of this feels like, I mean, the Kobe Dean slid, like these are the guys that they got later in the draft, all guys that like slid in the draft. And I was surprised that they were still around. And it just feels a lot like we want to celebrate Howie Roseman and the Eagles staff for making good decisions and good trades and good draft picks. But a lot of the things that they're doing is just like, oh yeah, that's common sense. Let's just do the common sense thing.
Well, they're the only one of the 32 teams doing the common sense.
Well, who's not? The Lions are not.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh my God.
We were all so excited about the Lions before the draft, and then they went and drafted 2 positions that people say you should never draft in the first round. It's like inside backer and running back. I guess people don't say you shouldn't draft the inside backer, but generally it's a low value position. You can find, you go corner, rush in, dominant D tackle. There's a lot of things a lot of positions you go through, safety, before you end up saying we gonna go first round on a linebacker. But they know more than us. I guess Micah Parsons was a inside linebacker at one point in his career.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like we were all the Tyra Banks meme. We were all rooting for you, screaming it at Dan Campbell.
Yeah, they were. I mean, Dan Campbell, I'm still a big Dan Campbell fan, but man, he got a hold of the draft board because that feels very Campbell-y. Let's get a running back and a mic. That's very Dan Campbell-y.
So much grit. I got to ask, on Richardson, just to circle or background on the draft and put a bow on it. Jim Irsay says he's going to start this season.
Yeah.
Your thoughts when you hear that, based on the fact that I think both of us viewed him as like, if not the top guy right there, but someone who could use some seasoning.
Yeah. So I don't see the point in saying it now. And I get it. That was part of my reason for wanting Anthony Richardson and kind of coming around on Anthony Richardson, is because I think I saw what Justin Fields has done and what Jalen Hurts did early in his career. And it's like, if you have a quarterback that is a special runner, the floor for your offense is high. And Justin Fields is the best example, because that offense was like, okay, with really not much else to point to as far as offensive firepower, and even offensive line, forget firepower, is anybody to help their offense other than Justin Fields. And it's not even Justin Fields being a great quarterback as much as it was like Justin Fields was being a great athlete. And so to me, when you have an athlete like that at that position, you can like sustain mediocre offense for the time that it takes to develop the passing skills. And that's always kind of been what I had been circling around for, like my quarterback development philosophy, is why I always say that the situation is more important than the player, is because you need time and you need time to develop. And we've seen all these quarterbacks, the best ones in football, were not that great to start off. And like Tom Brady is the first example. It's like they bought him time until he grew into the quarterback he was. Like Russell Wilson was one of those examples. I guess Aaron Rodgers came in hot, but he set out a year. Same with
3 years.
Yeah, set out 3 years. Patrick Mahomes set out a year and then came in pretty hot. I'm sure Patrick Mahomes would have been good the year before. But with Dak Prescott, like they bought him time with a rushing attack and a good defense. Took him time to develop into something. And you see that so often. And the thing about having a quarterback with running ability is he can create his own time. Like you won't be garbage. You won't be terrible. You'll sustain a decent offense for long enough for him to develop the other parts of his game, if it's possible for him to develop those parts of his game. So I'm fine with it. I think it's not like they're gonna stop working on the other things that he needs to work on, but yeah, what's the alternative? You just hire him, his own coach, and it's like, don't worry about anything. Just don't even look at the schedule. Don't even look at the game plan. Just go out, because otherwise it's not like, if you don't hire somebody special for him, everyone else is all hands on deck during the season. Like we're all strategizing, we're all game planning. No one is like thinking about the future. So that's the other alternative. And the assumption is he needs more time. That time is not going to get him any better unless you have somebody there who's working on those things to get him better.
You don't think he's going to just learn from the Gardner Minshew camp as a starter? That's not doing it for you.
Yeah, I don't think that's the way. Like no one is really learning, honestly, in season. Your little preseason learning, and then you playing. That's it. You're trying to learn game plan to game plan. You're not really getting better in the course of a NFL season. You're not working on your moves like you do in basketball. You are every game. You are fighting for your playoff life, as we have seen, especially in the AFC, where they have the weakest division, but that conference is going to be a lot of good teams, or a lot of good quarterbacks, at least, not in the playoffs.
That's right. All the good quarterbacks.
Yeah, somebody needs to get traded to the NFC and give Jalen Hurts a run for his money. It's like Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. That's it.
Yeah.
Who else is over there? Oh, Geno, I guess.
After Jared Goff and
Kirk
Cousins, like actually.
Yeah. Wow, it should be another good football season, but we got more basketball coming up. Anyway.
He's so good! How has Domonique been lately?
Bad or good?
Let's find out. This is Roses and Thorns.
Roses and Thorns, everybody. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Domonique.
You always laugh at my countdown. I don't know. It's like it's an industry thing that I would have thought was ridiculous before I started doing it, but it like does help you to like count yourself into. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about, but before we record this segment, I always go 3, 2, 1, and Ashley laughs at it every time, and then I start talking. Yeah, but
I could be like having a panic attack before we start this.
I could be like sad about something, like, and that has been the case like multiple times before we started this. Both of them. Sad maybe just once or twice. Panic attack like often. Not about this, like just other stuff. Just me. But once he says 3, 2, 1, I'm like, look at him thinking he's fancy, and I cannot help but to laugh.
It's not even fancy. It helps to like refocus or something, or like
I don't
get
know.
the
I
right
feel like
energy.
I could start the conversation fine without it.
I mean, you're a pro. I'm not. I'm out here pretending. Imposter syndrome. You're the one who's the professional broadcaster.
Just pause for a second. Rose and Thorns time with everyone's favorite Foxworth, Domonique. And I didn't say 3, 2, 1. Like, what is the point?
All right. Well, we're done. I'll stop doing this. You can record with Charlie and everyone else, and you can
because there are already enough layoffs at ESPN. We cannot risk it. I'm sorry. That's insensitive. Take that out. My apologies.
So under control.
I would definitely get the axe. Take it off. Take it off. Take it off. You want to just start over?
I don't think we need to start over.
They can edit it out. Okay.
Cool. Giving everybody more work.
We don't want more work. How are you?
I'm good, man. We just trudging along right here. Another weekend of crazy sports. Another week of surprises, and I mean crazy sports, not including the professional ones. I talk about the professional ones with Charlie, but crazy kid sports, and a week of making it through, figuring out everything.
I want to say about the professional sports really quickly. I don't have many thoughts on those.
You got pro sports hot takes?
No, I don't think it's a hot take, but I know that like LeBron James played well and the Lakers won, and Steph Curry, and they're like our age, at least almost. And so that makes me really excited to see them out there beating up on these little kids. I'm like, you go, old men. Or we're not old is the thing. We still got it. 40's the new 20. So I appreciate it that they won, and I'm sad because they play each other in the next round, right?
Yep, they do. You still got it.
That's too bad.
I'm past my prime, but you were looking awfully nice at your art thing.
Thank you. I had on this corset that I was like, please it, but I was like, but you know what? That's what corsets are for, to suck you in. So, but I was like, please don't bust open too. It's okay. I had a jacket in case it did.
Fancy suit. You look so professional and like not like artistically professional, like an art CEO. Is that a thing?
I didn't. Well, it was just in case I got chilly or my top bust that I wanted the jacket. I didn't wear it at all when I was there, other than like to laugh at myself. When I was going to the elevator. It was fun going out, but I mostly liked doing family stuff this weekend. We had all their sports games. And my takeaway from that was I realized, like, looking at my kids and watching them play sports. I posted a picture of the 3 of them in their uniforms, and I said like they get it from their mama. But like I was obviously joking. Like so few of their obviously in equal parts of their genes. I'm not a scientist, but like they're equal parts, both of us, but it feels like they're you. Like it feels like you have much more like input into who they are, which is not fair because I spent a combined 27 months pregnant with them and they are little yous. I don't have one little chubby, uncoordinated kid. It's really sad.
I mean, they got some coordination from your side because they're not dominating the way I would be dominating, but they're doing all right.
That is so rude. Avery is very good. Emerson just hates it. Yeah, Emerson has many more injuries than she does, like laps up and down the soccer field.
She's the youngest and probably the strongest of our kids. And like
she just busts out push-ups like she's been doing it since she was like 5.
Yeah, and when she's playing soccer with her kids, she like sprints past them all and then just doesn't care.
She does like a halo around like the group of girls that are like circling around the ball. She's like, let me just float around the outside of it. It looks like a halo because a lot of girls do that. But like she is like the widest one, and then she gets injured like every 5 minutes, and it's dramatic and full of tears, and Domonique doesn't care. Domonique, do you remember what you told her that was so mean? But later I was laughing. I was like, yeah, maybe she needs to hear that. At Declan's game, my son had a flag football game before Emerson's soccer game, and so we drove separately, and I peeled off to take her at her game. And at the time, Domonique and his parents were all at Declan's game, but his parents had something to do later, so they couldn't come to Emerson's game. It wasn't like because they didn't want to, but they had another obligation with another grandchild, with my niece. And so they were like, we're so sorry. And Domonique says to this little 7-year-old, just turned 7-year-old, maybe if you put more effort in at your games, if you tried harder and hustled, maybe more people would come to watch.
I mean, I had a momentary lapse of parenting. It was a mistake.
I had those
But
too.
she was whining. It was just getting on my nerves
So
because she was
whiny.
about to start crying about it. It was like, you're going to cry because they're not coming to the game. Just play hard.
And then she
Maybe,
found like 10 injuries to cry about during her
yeah,
little 30-minute game.
yeah,
And Avery, the hat trick. So good for
yeah.
her.
I think
Um,
she had so Avery. This league is obviously this is their last year in the league. Next year they have to play through their schools, so the competition will get a little bit
and
better.
she will
But
have a rude awakening.
yeah, she is gonna have a rude awakening because
All these girls who've been
they've
doing travel
had
soccer. She
they've
has
had two
rep.
games this year, and Avery scored 3 goals in both of them, and
Really? I thought she scored. No, she said she scored
she
two the
scored
first
2
game.
in the first game and 3 in the second game, and they blew out both of these teams. They are not their whole team, I guess, is. I mean, they're better than their level, so they are going to have a rude awakening next year when
I
they
know.
get
It's like all
introduced to
girls who.
all the travel all the
I
girls who like
know.
really are serious about it. Who are going out to one of her friends I was talking to about going out to who's not on this team is a really good athlete, but she's talking about how she is going out to deep parts of Virginia to get in competitive tournaments. Like, we ain't about that life. We just go out here
Oh,
and
and I don't want to
dominate
be.
these local girls and move on.
Like when we crossed the bridge to go to McLean for Declan's games, I'm like, ooh, that felt like a hike, although it's literally 12 minutes from our house if there's no
It's really
traffic.
close.
So no, I hope she's never about that life.
Yeah.
I also really enjoyed though laying around with you and the kids. I feel like even though they were busy and I went out this weekend, we had a lot of like TV and movie time. I would like to make a plug for like not a plug, I'm joking. I would like to make fun of myself. Do you know that I made the kids or the older two watch 80 for Brady with me one night you were working down to watch basketball? Because I figure Avery's cooperative. She'll watch whatever I say we're gonna watch. And Declan, like it's tangentially about football, or it's not tangent, it's about like these old ladies trying to get to this football game. So he'll watch it for like the football angle because it's hard to agree on something. So we watch it. But see, the thing is, I actually was so excited to see it and like semi-contemplated going to the theater because I love Grace and Frankie with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, and it's over now, and it's so funny, guys. Grace and Frankie is like hilarious. And so it felt like I was getting a little extra Grace and Frankie content. And I mean, Rita Moreno's great, but also I love Sally Field. It reminded me that Avery's never seen Steel Magnolias. We got to watch that. Have you ever seen Steel
No.
Magnolias?
What's
Okay,
it
we're gonna
about?
watch
I
it
know. I mean, so
together.
like this, you have an interesting taste when it comes to entertainment. It's um
It's what?
it's mainstream, I would say. That's the best way to put it. It's like
No, I watched
very down the center.
something on Hulu recently too. I can't remember what it was, but I remember turning on Hulu.
I can't get you into nothing on HBO. Oh, I guess we watched Insecure.
No,
That was
I watch
we
things
watched
on HBO. I
Insecure.
watch Insecure. I watch whatever the
Wrapped.
second thing of Sex and the City
Yeah.
was. I watch a lot of Secret Sex Life of College Girls or something, that Mindy Kaling one. So don't get me started. I have thorough I run the whole gamut. But it was actually pretty funny. So if anyone needs a family friendly movie, there's that. And then there's also what else was good that I watched was Want to Dance with Someone, I think, or Do You Want to Dance? The Whitney Houston biopic. Yeah. I didn't know it was as good. And something I was concerned about, they used her real voice like for the songs. So like it was almost like eerie. Because like no one else could have done that, right? Like could have sounded as good as her. So that would have just messed up any movie. But they actually like every time she's performing, it's actually like a real Whitney Houston track behind it. But it doesn't like look bad. So I recommend that also. And then Alan came over, my dad, and said to Avery, "You sing like her." She does not. Avery sings a little bit like me. And I was literally had my head in the microwave because I was getting something out of the microwave. And finally, at first, he was like, "No, I don't want to sing it." Like, no. And he was like, "Please, baby." And my mom was like, "Oh, she don't want to sing. Don't make her sing." Because my daughter was in a chorus once. So my dad, her granddad, thinks that she is just the best singer. I had to hide my head in the microwave because it was she did like a note from Of All Songs, I Will Always Love You. And like, I feel like it was like changing keys. I was just like, oh my God, but I can't talk because I can't sing at all. But anyway, watching it left me with a question, and it takes me back to a couple episodes ago. I also was doing a lot of Tupac listening because Peloton had Tupac content recently.
They got that show coming out soon too on.
And
FX.
I know, well, I think it might have started last week actually. I'm behind. That's on Hulu
Friday.
too. I gotta watch that. Dear Mama. Well, it's on FX, but it shows they streamed on Hulu. But is there any way that music today, like when I listen to like old music, I'm like, and I love Beyonce and I love Drake, but like music today, is it just that we're old? So like, is it like our parents didn't like our music when we were young, or is it that it's worse? And will this generation, like people who are like teens now, who will they, when they're like 40, annoyingly listening to old songs, who besides Drake and Beyonce will they go back and want to listen to?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I think Drake and Beyonce is for us, our age, and maybe a little younger. I don't think like teens now are like really into. I mean, I guess Drake, everybody
evidenced by their ticket
but,
prices.
But yeah, I don't think that teens now are like Drake and Beyonce. I don't know. I think Tyler, the creator, is like somebody who they listen to that they like a lot. I mean, I don't know. The point is we don't know. Like, if you ask your parents when you were young, they wouldn't have been able to pull out like the people that you listen to. But I think at least I've been reading about how the old music is more popular now than it ever was. And so maybe they're just going to like the same stuff. Like you listen to stuff that was from before your time.
When I think back about like, well, would they ever have music we had when we were young? I'm picturing like Luther Vandross and like Michael Jackson, like 80s Michael Jackson, like things from when I was an infant, Anita Baker, like old Mariah Carey. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I was alive, but I was like not actually enjoying the music thing because I was too little. So that's true. So I just got to keep listening to it and make sure my kids know those are the classics when they get older.
I mean, I'm sure they will know, but they'll also I feel like the Kendrick stuff is big, J. Cole is big, but I think this is also just like me being old. I think we just don't know what it is because we're not young enough to be on top of whatever's listening. I guess Avery what she listened to, but she mostly just listens to stuff that we like when we're around to try to impress us.
Yes, and to antagonize me. She heard me saying like, or one night when I was cooking, I was playing Tupac. Okay, fine. It was not edited, but Avery was the only one home, I think. And she came in and she was like, Tupac, why are you listening? I was like, well, I always love Tupac, but like I was thinking about it because I saw there's gonna be like Peloton Tupac rides and stuff. And so I was listening to Tupac, and she was like, yeah, Biggie's better. First of all, why you have to compare the two of them? Like it's just, I hate comparing things generally. Like I think everyone can be great, but also little 12-year-old, shut up. Like she was like, because Juicy, I like Juicy. And I was like, so do I. Why do you like Juicy? Because I play Juicy. Like, so I've noticed in the car a lot, she's listening to Juicy. I'm like, do you think you're pissing me off? Like, maybe you should be because it has curse words, but you're not. But then Declan too, who's like, he had got back when Avery and I were having this conversation from one of the practices he was at with you. And ever since he's like, you love Tupac. Where's Biggie? And I'm like, both of you can.
I introduced Avery to Rap Genius a couple of weeks ago, which may have been a problem, but I mean it's fine. She's old enough to handle it. She was telling me
Apple has lyrics though.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why I introduced it to her because she likes to read the lyrics as she's listening to the music, and I was like, well, yeah, like you could understand that. There's like deeper meaning to some of these lines, whereas most of the time, and it's a lot of Outkast songs that she's listening to and following on Genius. Most of the time with Outkast, it's like it's stuff that you can handle, but there's a lot of other music where we're listening to Kendrick, and Declan's really into some Kendrick songs, so we're listening to Kendrick, and she's on Rap Genius. Yeah, and she's on Rap Genius looking up the lyrics, and it's like the triple entendre here is like this sex act along with him being better than other MCs. And I'm like, let's not go ahead and dive into any of this just yet. Like, I know y'all know what's going on, but we don't have to be like.
I don't know. I hope they don't. I don't know.
They
know what's going on. No, because I didn't know. Well, I guess they have access to so much more information, but I like to think that they're more innocent than you think they are.
Yeah, I don't think they're as naive as you think.
Because you were a whore when you were 12.
I was not.
I'm joking. I mean, you kind of were. You weren't. You weren't. I know.
There you.
You were getting close to it. Whereas,
no, I was not. I was chilling, just trying to play football and get my books booked.
Okay, sure. Do you think in this new music there's many double and triple entendres?
I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. Like
which is proof that it's not as good.
That's not proof that it's not as good. It can still just be just as good. And maybe it's just going over our head. Like, I don't know. What's the most popular song right now? Let's see. Pop charts.
Okay, let's do a preview of. I was thinking before this. Obviously, we had nothing to talk about today, guys. So right before this, as I was eating my breakfast sandwich.
Kill Bill, SZA is the #1 song. Right
Oh,
now.
is that the one about she's going to kill her ex-boyfriend because he's cheating?
Is his name Bill?
I don't know, but I think I heard that the other day.
Yeah. Oh,
Avery was really into it.
That Miley Cyrus Flowers is #3. That thing, I like that. That's nice.
I actually do like that song too.
Ice Spice and Nicki Minaj is #4. Yeah. Somebody named Morgan Wallen for Last Night is #2.
And the guy that said the N-word at the time. I could be wrong.
I have no idea. Maybe.
Okay, maybe not. And you know what? It's about forgiveness, I guess.
Is it? Yeah.
I don't like country music though, like that, except for a couple. There's some Shania Twain and some Carrie.
I mean, our song is a country song,
Kelly.
Isn't it?
I wouldn't say it's our song. So listen, I actually do really like that song. So again, we're Catholic, so like there was limited. I wouldn't say that's our song. There was limited choice in what we could sing, and we were like planning our wedding kind of quickly. But there was there can be one song that someone can sing like when the bridesmaids are walking in, like before the service starts. And so a friend of his little brother sings at weddings. I was like, okay, let's ask Jordan. And I was like, you got any suggestions, Jordan? And he sung a song that I was like, I know that song. It was in the Hannah Montana. It's the only reason I knew, but the little Rascal, I was gonna say Little Rascals, a Rascal Flatts song. God Bless the Broken Road, but he had a like an R&B twist. But yes, it was. But my mom, when she listened to it, she was like, "So we're talking about like other things that were bad that got me to you." She was like, "What is this?" And how? I was like, "You know what?" Jordan sung it first, and it sounded nice, and I said, "Sure, go for it. We can't have Outcast, so F it. Let's do this." But we're not Outcast. Andre 3000. That's all I wanted on that verse of that International Players Anthem.
That is.
But so. Great one. I was going to play a game or come up with a game since we had nothing to talk about today, like one of those like couples, like how well do you know me? But as I was coming up with questions and then trying to make sure I knew what my answer would be to then see if he got it right, I was like, I don't know, but we'll do a preview of it. Okay.
Okay.
What's my favorite color?
Pink.
That's an easy one. Okay. You got it right.
Yeah, what's my favorite color?
Black.
Yeah.
Okay. This is one I don't know, but it was on theme. Name one of my top 3 artists. That's kind of cheating but I don't think I can pick one.
I mean, Beyonce's definitely in the top 3. I mean, I'd say Luther, Anita Baker, we listen to a lot. It's always Michael Jackson in the rotation.
You didn't say Lauryn Hill.
Oh, yeah. Lauryn Hill's been on the back burner for a little while, but yeah, Lauryn Hill.
I was listening to her a lot last week because I find that Lauryn Hill makes me feel peaceful. Her music makes me feel peaceful, and I was wanting to feel peaceful last week. Okay. For you, I would say Nas and Andre 3000 are 2 of your top 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's one that is, what song, when I used to be feeling myself a little bit more, could you not convince me wasn't like made
Fireworks.
For me, even though I knew it wasn't?
No.
All I see is fireworks. No, you're close though. You're really close.
Is it? They say something about fireworks in the song.
They do say something about fireworks.
Yeah, that's why I think it's.
And there's another song on the album called Fireworks. That's what I meant. That's why I said you were close.
What is it?
So you didn't get this one. Shut It Down, guys. This is how crazy I am. That was another song I wanted to walk down the aisle to. Drake, Shut It Down. And the line that I really, really loved was, "You're finer than your fine cousin." Honestly, my fine cousins are much finer than me, even back then. But I just love that song. Okay.
I feel like when you say that, it's like my responsibility to object to that, but then it's
no,
also
you're not.
like
My cousin's really attractive.
No, I just mean then it's like those are your cousins, and so it's weird to be like, hey.
No. I mean, you can love me more, but
yeah, no, I mean,
they're fine. Mop has some great genes. And my grandmother, she'd be more beautiful than all of us combined. I mean, she was. Okay,
she was thick.
She was not thick.
I don't know. I was just trying to say something to make you uncomfortable. It didn't work.
She was in great shape and had 4 children and was in great shape afterwards. A gym. Okay. You come up with a question. Okay, now that is disgusting, Domonique. Like, you cannot say stuff like that.
Why can't I?
That is so fucking weird.
All right. That's the point. It's funny.
Okay, come up with one and then we can be done.
It's provocative. Give the people what they want. All right.
Is that what makes you think that's what anyone wants?
It's not. It's a line from a movie and from song.
I've heard it's like an intro to a song. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that ice skating movie with Will Ferrell. It's the intro to
Give the people
Negroes in Paris.
There you go. Okay. Go ahead.
So I got to do like
come up with a question. But we'll refine this game one day and like we'll have signs. But
so this
for
is
now,
a preview. All right, let's see.
Yeah, it's a preview.
Let me Google.
No, you don't have to Google anything for this.
I know. I was looking up.
I can tell you're looking stuff up.
Yeah, I was looking up good dating game questions.
Okay. Well, I think it's more like a how well do you know me game. Is that the same as a dating game? Like I'm like guessing to see. Okay.
All right, here we go. Which of your spouse's housekeeping habits drive you the most crazy? What is one thing your spouse cannot live without? What is your spouse's best feature? What is your spouse's first car? What movie title best describes your marriage?
Are you picking one?
Okay, I would say one thing they can't live without would be a good question.
Okay, let me think. I have to think of the thing I can't live without.
I thought of something for me.
I thought of something for me.
The thing you can't live without. I mean, I feel like you could say phone for anybody. That feels like a cheat. What? It's something that you use a lot, that you like a lot. Music, a lot of music. And you cook a lot, but I think you could live without.
Oh, I sure could.
All of the
DoorDash,
cooking.
Restaurants. I would love it.
I mean, TV, I guess. I don't know. It feels pretty boring.
That's for everybody. I was gonna say AirPods for you.
Oh yeah, that's what I would have said for me too.
Oh, good. For me, the first thing that came to mind was caffeine. But I actually think when I just don't have it, like I could survive without it, but I just wouldn't want to try. Like I only try when I have my colonoscopies or something like that. Or mildly, I tried during pregnancy, but not that much.
Just leaving that floating there. We don't have to explain when you said I have my colonoscopies. Like it's just a routine thing. So.
I have Crohn's disease and I've had it for a long time. So I get colonoscopies. I really like to get them annually, but my gastroenterologist was like, you don't need them annually. How about every 18 months? And I was like, or I think he tried to say like 2 years. I was like, where's my old gastroenterologist? Let me see, did she come out of retirement? Because she didn't give me this pushback. She wanted, and it's also, and like I'm sure he's right, but it's also my anxiety. Like it's like I would like to like know, I like you to look and make sure I don't have anything going on.
Every 6 to 9 months, you tell me that you think you have cancer. It's kind of frustrating and sad, but hey, I guess it's something you worry about. You need to start taking these Xannies that you've been prescribed for a year now and you won't take. Pop one of them things. The kids be rapping about that too. I don't think it's for anxiety though. These rappers don't be taking Xanax.
So what do they take it for? Like, what else is it going to do for me?
I don't know what it does. I think it's.
And I couldn't just take that because I'm worried about cancer. I would need to take the other one that's like a. I
was joking. You shouldn't take it because you're worried about cancer. You should take it because you're worried about everything all the time.
Actually, you even said this morning, like I seem less anxious than I sometimes do.
Yeah, you did today. That's because the last
Lauryn Hill got me through it.
Few days has been really anxious, but yeah.
Have they? Has the weekend been great?
It's been great. Everything's been great. It's always great. Rose for you.
Great,
for always being great, and life always being great, and you having a great crochet sweater on right now.
Thank you. It's a hoodie.
Crochet hoodie.
A rose for you is that you care. You realized over the weekend that Lamar was missing.
We had to track down
the thorn is you could not find him. The rose though is that his big brother Declan calls Lamar his cat his brother, and that's another rose that Lamar Jackson is going to stay with the Ravens. And all these black quarterbacks were drafted so early, and that Jalen Hurts, my boo, and Lamar Jackson both got their money. But anyway, back to our Lamar cat rose, because we might have had to we would have had to rename our cat or like gotten new jerseys if Declan decided to still be a Lamar fan or his new team. So I'm really happy that Lamar Jackson is with the Ravens. We have to go to some games this year. But so he was outside. I think like Avery was cooking and let the cat out, probably is what happened early in the morning. And she
smoked up
was
the
cooking
kitchen.
and it was smoky. So she opened the patio door, and that's how we suspect the cat got out. Although sometimes just when I'm cooking, I want him out of the house, like, because I don't want him in the kitchen with me when I'm cooking. So, but anyway, I don't kick him out. But it was pouring rain Sunday morning. It was pouring rain. And so Domonique just realizes, like, a lot of times we don't always see him. But Dominique's like, I haven't seen the cat in a while. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I've been out the night before. Like, he slept late. I don't know where the cat is. And so Domonique starts looking for him, and we use like his little training, his cat clicker, and he's not answering. So I'm like, shit, you're right. He's missing. So we look, I'm outside. Why I didn't take 2 minutes to put on normal clothes, I don't know. But I'm outside in a tie-dye bathrobe and like my daughter's Crocs. And eventually I changed into a raincoat over my tie-dye bathrobe, where you could still see the bathrobe under my raincoat, and New Balances. And I'm walking all around looking for the cat.
Yeah,
and Dominique's walking around
like
looking for the cat.
45 minutes trying to find the cat.
Yeah, and like adding on the time we looked inside, it was like an hour looking for him. And the kids knew we were looking, but none of them cared. Like, have you seen Lamar? Have you? Like, mind you, it's their effing cat. And they were chilling. And then finally Declan like starts to get a little worried. He's like, you really can't find him? So he goes and gets all these little treats of his out, which we didn't have. That was like, this is his nose that good that he like smelled them. But anyway, we had the clicker. Declan goes outside. He looks around the house first and starts throwing treats random places, like up steps, down steps around the house, hoping they'll get him to come out. And then he realized like he really isn't around, which we had been realized. And I was like, oh shit. I had posted on Nextdoor, the neighborhood app already. I was like, this isn't good, guys. And so Declan went outside and I was out front, and I heard him go out back. And he says, Lamar. That's how he says his name, in my opinion. And then I hear a meow. And then I was like, is Declan imitating a meow? Or did he just find this cat in 30 seconds after we've been looking for his behind in the cold rain for an hour? But yeah, it's the roses that you realized he was going before he got even farther. So thank you.
And I came up short finding him, but it was good that Declan found him. It was good. He survived. He was rainy. I mean, he was wet, but poor cat.
If anyone has any suggestions, he is chipped. Like, if someone were to find him and bring him to a vet, they could figure out he was ours. But he doesn't like collars. Like all the ones we got him, he's either gotten off of or gotten stuck on things with himself in it. So we can't have ones that he can't get off. But then the ones he gets off. So if anyone has any suggestions, like can we take an air tag and just like slip it in his butthole somehow? Like, I know we can't because he'll poop it out. But like, is there anything we can do? Because the kids, I mean, with the doors being open more and more, the kids are gonna just lose him.
Well, he needs to be smart enough to know where to come back to. So,
well, that's what Declan said. He's smart. He knows his home. Don't worry. Yeah. And then this morning he said something. He doesn't remember. He has a bad short-term memory, but I guess he has the long-term memory that allows him to come home. I don't know. Anyway, it was great contriving topics of conversations with you.
All right. Well,
everything's great with you.
Oh, so sweet. Well, I will plan better for next week because I feel like you're disappointed in me because I didn't have a better show planned. All right.
I'm not personally. Your fans could be, but they could just turn it off by now.
Fans, so I don't have fans.
No, you're right. You're listeners.
Yeah, they're more listeners. We're friends here. They're my friends.
That's true. I do like that. I think so too. I think that's so nice. I've actually had a couple of people reach out to me who are like wives or girlfriends of people who are probably like miserable. I'm like, oh, you should buy them AirPods so you don't have to listen. Who listen to like you and Bomani, and they've reached out and been like, shared stuff we have in common. One of them is now my friend on Peloton. She's a Pelotoner. And I would like to shout myself out because I did a lot of Peloton in the month of April. And I got gold medals in everything that you can get gold medals in, which is really psycho that I cared about that. But I only decided I was going to get it like the 27th. So my shoulder hardly works because I had to do so much rowing, but it's okay. It's okay. Anyway, so yeah, your friends might be disappointed, but they could have just hung up by now.
They're friends, so they'll forgive me. Thanks, friends. See you next time. Appreciate you,
Bye.
Ashley. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Sarah. Why can't I read? Thanks, Sarah Abbott, Addie Cohen, and Christina Buswell, as usual, for hooking this up on the production end.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.